Good evening, friends. Today is 16th September, and we are going to continue the Hindu article. Yesterday we are discussed some article, and today we are going to discuss more three articles from the Hindu. The three important articles are: the first article is related to the cricket, where India and Pakistan match was held on Sunday, where India won the match by 7 wickets. Now, why the match is more discussed, or what are the issues that are highlighted? We'll discuss some points in this, and why the politics or is mixed up with the cricket. Some issues need to be discussed. The article is good, and the writer has mentioned some important points that need to be considered for India during the next matches. Friends, next article we are going to see is article regarding the women's contribution to the economy and some important reforms that are much needed, and also these reforms are carried by some states like Uttar Pradesh, and which should be copied by the other states. This article is very much gives very important points for the women's role in economy. And third important article is article related to the mental health of the students, where how coaching institutions, role of parents, role of governance, and the role of society plays importance during the mental growth of the students during his curricular activities. So starting with the first article, that is the field and fraternity, that is the cricket. So friends, first is the what is the controversy before the match. Some political parties like Shiv Sena has demanded that, or said that this match, first the match was totally opposed by some political party. They said that due to the Pahalgam attack or Operation Sindoor, this match should be cancelled, and this will be blow for the Pakistans. Some political party from Maharashtra, that is Shiv Sena, has demanded that this is the insult to the national sensitiveness, and this match should not be conducted. Same from the MIM, that is from Mr. Oasis, that he has said that this is the BCCI's financial goals will be prioritized over the lives who lost in Pahalgam. This was a controversy, and it was opposed by many of the citizens for before the matches. But anyhow, the match was conducted and India won the match. The writer has highlighted some important points regarding some players, what the players gesture or what the role of players are needed beyond the politics. This was see, the cricket and politics are never separated. That is, the politics in cricket is always continued. As you see this, our BCCI president is elected by the governing, are elected from the governing party or the party who is ruling. So politics and cricket are interconnected, and politics in cricket and cricket in politics are hand to hand. So if you see this politics in cricket before independence, the cricket, it was used as a negotiator power. How we see in movie of Lagan. Before this was before the independence, negotiation with Britishers. Then it in terms of Lagan, then whatever the food prices, this was negotiation there. So cricket was not away from the life of the people. Then after independence, that is nearly after 1947, the cricket was seen as India and Pakistan was seen as a rivalry between the two players, where the war was fought on the field after the independence. This was the situation of cricket during this period. And in late 90s, that is the 1970s and 2000s, some positive momentum was seen in cricket, that is the positive purpose for foster constant and ease of tension was seen during this period. But after some attacks on India, that is Pahalgam, Mumbai attacks, the situation has been become worse, where both the teams are, there are many incidents where the number of matches are cancelled, or the players are not Pakistan players are not included in the IPL. Now what is the concern, or what is the issue currently what is seen in the cricket between the or ongoing Asian matches? It is that when the Indian team or Captain Surya Kumar Yadav decided not to shake hand for the Pakistan counterpart. But the writer says that sportsman person are not soldiers, and doing this like just these gestures is blur the line between the solidarity with the terror victims and hostility toward the fellow athletes. Means the sport is beyond the fellowship, sportsmanship, then joy, and bringing the two countries together, what the writer wants to say. More, the writer is highlighting that ICCI, where ICCI has failed and continuously grouping these two countries in one these two countries in one group from since many years. They have not made any reforms and wanted to fight this country in one group only, where the rivalry is continuously growing. It seems like that ICCI is under the pressure, working under the pressure of BCCI. So, what is the solution or the conclusion, and what we look forward so that this sportsmanship should be continued, and like these events or things should not be happen again in the future? The writer highlights 2 points. First, that essence of sports lies in reducing the conflict and not inflaming it or not increasing the conflict. The players from the two countries should always should try to bring both the countries together. This the writer is highlighting. Second, writer stated that India should change the gesture in the next coming up matches against the Pakistan and should shake hand with the Pakistan players, and this will show a true sportsmanship, what the writer wants to say. This was all about the cricket matches between India and Pakistan, which is going on in Asia Cup. So let's move to the next article. The article is related to India's economic ambitions need better gender data. Let's understand the background regarding this article first, and what the writer wants to say. The writer says that current status of what the writer wants to first. Writer states some current status of women's contribution to the economy. He highlights that today women contribution to the GDP is around 80%, which is leaving trillions of dollars untapped, where this number is very small. And where India wants to become at least around 30 trillion economy by 2047, this is possible only when the contribution of the women will increase. Nearly 196 million employable women are out of the workforces. And according to the female labor force participation rate, that is the FLFPR, it is 41.7%, and only 18% of that is in formal jobs. Other are not recognized in economy. So what is the core issue what writer wants to create, or what writer wants to suggest? Before that, he gives one example in Uttar Pradesh. One example is women economic empowerment. Before starting with the core issues, he has given one example in Uttar Pradesh, that is the Women Economic Empowerment Index. That is WEE index. What is this? It was introduced in Uttar Pradesh, which tracks some levels in women's contribution. What are these levels? First is the employment of women. Then second, education and skilling of women. Then third, entrepreneurship. Fourth, livelihood and mobility. Fifth is the safety and inclusiveness of infrastructure. These are the 5 concepts included in the WEE index, that is Women Economic Empowerment Index, that in Uttar Pradesh. So why this gender disaggregated data matters? The same example is given in Uttar Pradesh. See now, India has multiple indices like the health, economy, infrastructure, but rarely broken down by the genders. We have number of indices, for example, health, economy, infrastructure, but where the gender gaps or gender quality indexes are neglected by the policymakers. Without gender specific data, there are number of gaps which are remain hidden only. There are number of reforms which are stalled only because of this gender gaps. And third is there is no inclusiveness shown in this due to this gender gaps. For example, from UP transport example, how these gender gaps affects the women's role into the economy, the writer gives a very perfect example, that is from UP transport sector, where the contribution of women in UP transport was seen very less. This is the data. Here we have not highlighted only transport, where gender based data is shown, that is the women participation is low. So what happened? This information we got, that is the women's participation in transport sector is less. So now what? There will be new recruitment strategies and infrastructure improvements like restroom for the women's. These are second step. First step is that we know that the women's contribution to the transport in UP is less. So what the policymaker did, they started recruitment the of women and started infrastructure improvements. This is a small but a catalytic reform made possible only through gender specific insight, that is due to gender specific data. So policymaker, they have reform only because where the transport sector was where transport women contribution to the transport sector was less. So gender specific data is very important here. Another pattern revealed by the WWE index where women dominated enrollment in a skilling program, where participation of women is very high in WWE index in Uttar Pradesh. But only few transition to the entrepreneurship, means the entrepreneurship ships regarding the women was very less. Only small amount of or small number of women got access to the credit. Thus the index shift from participation rates to retention, that is access, and systematic reforms were needed, and which was started in Uttar Pradesh. This was example in Uttar Pradesh. Writer want to scale up this model in other states like Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha, Telangana, which are aiming for $1 trillion economics, and they should adopt this WEE index, which is now implemented in Uttar Pradesh. Writer state that such tools will help the status converted to action taking, linking budgets and infrastructure program to women empowerment. These are the main important points. So what writer wants to conclude, or some points are where the writer says that it will be helpful, is the first is the universal generated disaggregate data, that is the integrate gender breakdown into all gender breakdown reforms or data into all government infrastructure, means the writer wants all government data should be breakdown on gender basis. Second, train local government to collect and use this data for district level action plans. If once data we get, then we need to take action on this data, and reform should be brought in terms of infrastructure, then whatever required. Third, need monitoring, then leadership and quality of jobs regarding the women. This is the some way forward or conclusion points the writer has given. By making such reforms, women's economic participation, visible data and policy, it can move women from the margin to the mainstream Indian growth story. A number of reforms should be brought. These are the important points given by the writer. So let's see the third article, that is the court's note to mental health as a right. A very important article because one of the fundamental rights is included in this article. So what is this article? So let's see some background of this article first. That is, background is that in July 2025, the Supreme Court of India delivered a landmark constitutional verdict in Sukhdev Shah versus State of Andhra Pradesh. Now, what is this case? That is the case of Sukhdev Shah versus State of Andhra Pradesh, where 17-year-old child or the aspirant, any NEET aspirant, committed a suicide in Visakhapatnam hostel. The father was disappointed with the investigation that was carried by the local police. So what he did, he wanted the CBI probe, but which was neglected to him. So he moved to the High Court, where his petition was rejected. The next step he went to the Supreme Court, and where the landmark judgment was given by the Supreme Court. Now, what is this verdict given by the Supreme Court? Once this case went to the Supreme Court immediately transferred this case to the CBI. Second, he recognized that the Supreme Court recognized mental health as an integral part of right to life under Article 21 of the Constitution. And this moved the judgment beyond the individual case into a broader social and the constitutional issue in the country. These are the verdict. Now, what is the core issue and what are the number of challenges that are the students? This was the verdict given by the CBI. But other aspects are also affecting the students, and which the writer has highlighted. That is the core issues relating the mental health of the students, and what are the factors affecting the mental health of the students. And these are the factors covering not only the parents, but also the coaching institutions, then the government, then the society, everyone that is directly or indirectly affecting the health of a child. So let's see some core issues that is affecting the mental health of child. India is facing a widespread epidemic of student suicide, which are overlooked by the government. The court framed this as a structural victimization, where first, there is a negligence of mental health of a student. Second, there is continuously or maximum exploitation by the coaching institutions. Third, court says that there is vast indifference in schooling or universities, where the difference we can see the private section or government or whatever you can see. This is creating a number of tensions on the health of the child. And fourth is very important, that is the governance or negligence by the government. These points are highlighted by the court. This is the broader concept that is highlighting the mental health of a student. Now, how the court is watching this judgment, that is how the victimology and structural violence perspective in this case. Here the state and the institution themselves emerge as the structural perpetrators, where the students are not merely fighting their internal struggles, but also the victims of the systems. So in this case, failure to ensure safe educational environment amounts to the structural violence by the states. Now, before this verdict, some legal frames were also there, but how it was denied or this is not effective in the current scenario. Some legal frame, that is the Mental Health of Act of 2017, was already provided the mental health care, but this enforcements the this ruling of the enforcement has been very weak for this act, that is the Mental Health Act of 2017. Now, by constitution, or giving this right, mental health as a fundamental right, it has encouraged a number of students or highlighted some broader concept or broader issue and given strength to the this article. In this verdict, some guidelines were also given by the Supreme Courts, but let's see how the policymaker implement them or bring them into the main legal frames, means that include them in the law. But these guidelines are just for given by the Supreme Courts, some guidelines which government should include this in the law. That is the first guidelines, that is school, colleges, hostels and coaching centers must be set up support system for mental health. Means these colleges, schools should give support to the students for their mental health. And then second is the district level monitoring committee should be set up for ensuring student safety and all that. These are the some guidelines given by the Supreme Court. Now, what is the broader implication of this verdict? The verdict reshapes how society understands students' suicide. Suicide has shifted from individual tragedy, means first the suicide was created by a student in students were considered as his individual problem, but now this suicide are not considered as the individual problem of the students. This is a structural or includes number of things in the suicide of the student. Second is this has has given strength of treating mental health as a government's responsibility to give fair than proper coachings or regulation of coachings and safe environment as a state responsibility. And in conclusion to the article, that is the Supreme Court ruling in Sukhdev Shah is watermark, that watershed movement in constitutional law, and this has brought recognized mental health as mental health under the Article 21 of the Constitution. The court has translated student suicide from isolated tragedy into the matter of public justice and structured accountability. And this means which was isolated and which was neglected by many of the institutions. The students' suicides are brought under the Articles 21 of the Constitution, and which will give stronger strength for the students who will face any problems. So thank you very much.